to get started to see which one can be the most retarded. Tinfoil haters, it's time to start the show. Tinfoil haters, it's time to start the show. Tinfoil haters, don't tell them what to say. Tinfoil haters are here to save the day. And Sammy are about to get started to see which one can be the most retarded. Tinfoil haters, it's time to start the show. Tinfoil haters, it's time to start the show.
We're back. Election of the first episode didn't get us canceled. How you doing, Sammy?
I'm doing all right. I'm ready to talk about this subject, and I'm glad that we got an intro now. That's cool,
dude. The intro you put together is so unhinged. I love it. Great work on that, dude. That was so much fun. But to tackle such a subject as human infused alien DNA, and that's how we got our start walking upright, we're gonna need someone of superior class and a wealth of knowledge. So for our very first guest ever on the show, the Gourd King, tell people who you are and what you do.
Hello, I am the Gourd King, aka tonight you can call me Pepe Pumpkin. I have not smoked nearly enough ever to feel up to snuff with our two current hosts, especially after that intro, but while I may not be a big believer in aliens and whatnot, I still love alien fiction and whatnot. I've actually been playing Mass Effect a lot lately, so that's all the knowledge I have on the subject. But normally I talk movies and pop culture-y thingies and make memes and whatnot. So
this story should be a movie. Like, if this story was to ever get made into a movie, I would be so down. Let's say hey in the chat real quick, though, before we get right into the chicanery and tomfoolery. We got Johnny Boy Richards. How you doing, my man with a plan? Anonymous. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'll just say aliens is what I think I'm supposed to say are demons and Christ is king. False. Even if aliens exist, speaking as a Christian, aliens do not fit the qualification for what a demon would be. But by all means, hold to your beliefs. That's fair. Nadia in the house. Philip Morgan is here. The Mama Badger, how you doing, girly? We got Philip already. Dax is here. Little Miss Anonymous, who says, meowdy, y'all. Oh, love seeing you here. Cryptic Beats, a stream about aliens. Let's get my tinfoil hat on. We might need you when we do the stream about Jakob on account of your black. Appreciate you, man.
Yes.
Jay Goodwin is here. Sammy in the chat. Foxy Moxie in the building. I think that might be it. Oh, Morgan D, appreciate you showing up. And yeah, guys, let's just appreciate seeing you. Let's get into it. First of all, Sammy, how much of this do you believe in terms of, first of all, what is the Ancient Astronaut theory? Lay it on us first in your best words, and I'll give my thoughts, and Gord can pretend to have an opinion.
Ancient Astronaut theory is, no matter how you want to swing it, is a long time ago, aliens landed and either gave man the technology to progress or interfered with our evolution, so to speak, which is why we jump so far ahead from chimpanzees and other primates. There are shocking correlations in symbology between ancient cultures that depict men in what looks like spacesuits, some sort of vehicles that that might be capable. To me, they just kind of look like circles. The idea is very, very cool. It's nothing new, but it's definitely something that we talked about earlier. That is, there's a lot of correlation with these things, and then there's things that quickly debunk them. And I know all three of us are Christian, so it's you can believe what you want, but who says God didn't put those aliens there? Your move.
And see, this is one of those things, one of those theories that there's a lot that easily debunks it, but then there are some things that, let's be real, just straight up have not been debunked, or at least at the very are good indicators of there's answers we don't have. That doesn't mean the answer is aliens, but there's answers we don't have. Gord, what are your thoughts on ancient astronaut theory?
I mean, I think it's fun, like conversation fodder. I find most like alien like discussion theories, when people get really serious about it, I find them kind of funny because all of the so-called alien evidence we have out there tends to break down to, blurry cell phone videos that are never exactly clear, or extremely distant images and whatnot. As far as my actual belief on aliens, like, I think that the logistics and the distance is like, even if you believe aliens are out there, I think the idea that they've even visited here is incredibly far-fetched. But I think it's fun conversation fodder because I think it touches on, I think a shared belief that there are beings of superior, intellect and whatnot out there, and whether you believe they're aliens or more angelic or godlike beings and whatnot tends to vary from person to person. But yeah, I mean, it's fun stuff to talk about. I mean, there are things, being a Christian also, things in the Bible that I think people draw some of, from some of that stuff and think, oh, were they talking about aliens here? Like when this prophet was carried up on chariots of fire. It's like, no, not exactly.
Okay, you say you didn't research this, but chariots of fire is a big portion of the discussion.
It is, yeah.
Like, and then the chat already popping off because Iman says go read Zechariah Sitchin's books, The 12th Planet 8. That will be a large part of today's discussion. So you jumping the gun on me, homie. Sorry, continue, Gord.
No, it's fine. I mean, like I said, I think it's fun conversation fodder. I think it's inspired some truly excellent stories out there. I mean, sci-fi happens to be one of my absolute favorite genres. I mean, it's the genre of my favorite video game series, Mass Effect, which even that game plays a little bit on the ancient astronaut theory because, the Protheans are the ones that kind of elevated humanity, and you find out they had their own ancient aliens, and so did the cycle before that, and so on and so on. So, it creates these fascinating conversations, but on a realistic level, I kind of laugh at them.
You heard it here first, folks. Gord King, true believer.
Yeah.
So we already have a bit of a dialogue in the chat. Are humans so special? They're the only species in the galaxy or universe with intellect. And then Dax and R says, nah, no way. The universe is too big. The variables make an Earth looks like planet. Have to repeat at some point. Now, you guys are both sort of correct. So,
can I make a slight counter to that right off? I mean, like, I've
go for it. Because I was going to counter as well. But go.
My counter to that is, I was like, well, there's about 10 million or so species on this planet, and we are so special that we're pretty much the only one there. we're pretty much the only species that is even capable of dominating the planet the way we do. So that would be my counter. But I mean, to me, it's like they didn't have to. I'm not too worried about the debate aspect of it. It's more just it's something I would.
No, I'm offended.
Fun with.
So I mean, since we're talking about aliens, and I guess the best way to open up would be to talk about the Fermi paradox, which is there's both arguments have already been shared of the Fermi paradox here, which is the universe is so vast and so expansive, there must be aliens out there because there's no way that you could have this unending this unending universe without something else. That just logistically doesn't make sense. However, the other opposite end of the Fermi paradox is if it is so vast and there are so many other opportunities, why haven't we seen anything yet? And you get down to the mathematics of it, and mathematically,
we only made it to our moon.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. I'm not even so sure about that one.
Yeah,
but so we have been able to calculate the rough number of atoms in the universe. The rough number of atoms in the universe is 10 to the 18th power or something ridiculous more than the number of grains of sand on the planet Earth. The universe is ridiculously large, uncomprehensibly large. So that kind of, in my opinion, errs on the side of the Fermi paradox of we probably should have seen something by now. But that being said, that's also what this whole episode's about, is that we have seen it, and it happened thousands of years ago. I don't know if you guys have a jumping off point for there. I just wanted, since that debate was already happening.
No, I didn't know if you were done. Yeah, it's the thing that I find most astounding and that I love the most about this theory is you see a lot of correlation with ancient ideology, where if if they did come a long time ago, was it a singular event? Was it, things like that? There are definite reasons. Also, we have no reason to think that maybe they did come here and hang out, and then they saw how ridiculous that human beings act, and they just decided to stop coming. So
I think they were on their way. They were on their way back, and then they saw we had invented vaping, and they were like, "Nah, let's start over."
All right, I see the sort of show this is going to be. We will get into this topic of conversation as well. But first, let's lay the scene. So when it comes to the ancient alien theory, the most prevalently one talked about is the Anunnaki. How familiar are either of you guys with the story of the Anunnaki?
Never heard of it.
Okay, Sammy.
I've heard it. I just don't remember what it is.
So the story of the Anunnaki is that there is a planet about on the precipice of the Kuiper Belt, which is out far beyond Pluto. It would be hypothetically the ninth planet, since we can all agree Pluto is not a planet.
Yeah, it's true.
Wait until I get pushback for that one.
No, I agree. I don't. It doesn't meet the definition, so it's like, okay, it's not a planet.
Bingo, bango, bongo. Gord, you're such a smart dude. It does not. Pluto does not.
It's a celestial dwarf.
Categorization of being a planet, so it should have never been one.
Sorry, it's like just like Peter Dinklage doesn't meet the definition of a star,
or an actor.
Same
He's
reason.
a real life dwarf.
Yeah, it's too small.
So supposedly on the precipice of the Kuiper Belt, there is a planet called Nibiru, and Nibiru is very advanced civilization with a much thicker atmosphere and much lower gravity than what we have here. And due to the advancements of their civilization, they were able to build teeming cities and skyscrapers and power plants. And the planet was inhabited by two races of aliens, the Anunnaki and the Ajiji. The Anunnaki were the ruling class, and the Ajiji were their slaves conquered from a different alien conquest.
Now that you're saying all these names, I think I do recognize these names. They've been emailing me about sending them money. They're not, those names aren't Kenyan by any chance, are they?
Well, I mean, to be fair, if you're just to wire like 20,000 Quaaludes to this alien species, you could become an emperor on the planet of Nibiru. So
on it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
yes,
I have to say there is a stark difference between the YouTube chat and the Rumble chat.
Is there now? What's the Rumble chat saying? Kamala Harris getting game banged by Barack and Michelle Obama, Jay-Z, and Beyonce on the way for the freak off. That's a fairy tale, bro. Well, I don't know what you mean it's a fairy tale. Because I can absolutely believe the Kamala Harris and Diddy Party freak off thing. Yes, this very well may be a fairy tale. That's what we're here to talk about and find out and discuss and dissect. So the planet Nibiru, again, very technologically advanced, two different alien civilizations ruling on it, both very similar to humans in terms of language. They walk upright, two arms, two legs. They have their own language. But due to an unforeseen catastrophe in several volcanic eruptions happening on Nibiru, it basically just destroyed their civilization, and that all the fancy power plants and everything that kept them sustainable was destroyed, and it poisoned their atmosphere.
So it's Atlantis in space.
That's a really good description. It is Atlantis in space. We're following so far.
Like Vex, I put on the Pepe Pumpkin costume. I mean, that's pretty conspiracy theory.
Vex, I'm not going to cover up greatness. I
mean, I could go more the tinfoil crown if you like.
I like that tinfoil crown. That's pretty good. Zach, we will get to the Native American portion as well, because you're right. There is actually this story, while it is an ancient Sumerian story, and even that is sort of debated. There's been some mistranslations, some errors, but we're gonna, for simplicity's sake, to start off, we're gonna go with the fact that it's ancient Sumerian. So these aliens, the Anunnaki, thought we need to find a way to save our atmosphere. And in doing their research, they realized that gold particles in their atmosphere would reflect all of the negative chemicals that had been thrust up there by the volcanoes. But Nibiru is actually gold is an incredibly rare mineral. So they sent out space probes, and they did some excavations and found that Earth It's a very gold-heavy planet. Now, when we talk about Earth, this is during the time of the Neanderthal and the early Homo sapiens. So we were talking roughly 700,000 years ago, give or take. So the Nibiru decide they are going to come to Earth with their Ajiji slaves, and they're going to mine all the gold. That way they can take it back to their planet, process it, throw it into the atmosphere, and do whatever sci-fi shenanigans these fucking little green men have figured out. The Ajiji, and this is discussed. So there's a hierarchy to this alien race. You've got the king of the planet, Anu. You've got his two sons, Enlil and Anku. And so Anu sends Enlil and Anku to Earth to head this expedition with a few hundred other of the aliens of the Annunaki and about 600, give or take, Ajiji slaves. And throughout the course of the first few years, things are going A-okay. The Ajiji are they're mining the gold. They're doing what they're being told. But because the situation is so dire and they need to keep getting this gold back to their planet as fast as possible, they are pushing the slaves too hard to the point where there is a rebellion. And the rebellion gets quashed pretty quickly. The Anunnaki aren't fucking around. They put the Ajiji back in their place, but they also know we can't just put them back in the mines. They'll just rebel again. So their idea is to take these early upright hominids and splice in some Ajiji genes, which mean, hey, we'll keep them complacent, docile, and controllable, just like the Ajiji, but we will mitigate their propensity for violence and the freedom of thought that will that perpetuated the rebellion. Basically, they took monkeys or very, very advanced apes in the evolutionary line and turned them into very early humans for slave purposes.
Did they write a book about it called Uncle Tom's Cabin?
And this is why you're here, Gord. This is absolutely why you're here.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie though. This sounds a lot like the plot of Battlefield Earth.
So, there's some interesting similarities between L. Ron Hubbard and another individual who perpetuated a lot of these talking points. Also, Zach just going off in the chat with a lot of stuff that will come up. Homie is king of jumping the gun, but and it makes sense. He's got an alien profile. But Zach, we love you, my man with the plan. Anunnaki have deep ties to the Nephilim in the Bible, the mixing of blood, which consists. So you are correct about that, sort of. A Nephilim was not an Anunnaki and a human in these texts, if they're to be believed. The Nephilim are the offspring of the Ajiji and humans, and they would hunt the offspring of the Anunnaki and humans. But yes, you're more or less on the correct path. Anyway, so as the Anunnaki created these humans, or fast-tracked our evolution, to say, Enlil thought, wow, human women are kind of fucking hot. And he decides to marry and bone one that led to the first truly human baby. And this is what caused them to abandon us, because instead of having just the docile nature of the gene splicing, they now inherited the Anunnaki propensities for free thought, violence, things to that effect. Mm-hmm. And they accidentally created a race of violent violent apes that sought to conquer and control and could do agriculture and create empires. And so they decided, fucking deuces, and they bounced out. They'd gotten all the gold they needed over the several generations. They are going to take it back to their place. They're going to do everything they need to save their environment. But this planet, Nibiru, has a strangely elliptical orbit. And every 3,600 years, its orbit crosses with Earth's to varying degrees. And it so happened the degree that it happened this next up and coming time crossed between Earth and the moon, which puts such a strain on our gravitational pull. It is what caused the Great Flood. It basically caused the oceans to rise up in all directions, caused the Great Flood, of which most humans were killed, and humanity rebuilt, and then we are where we are now.
Well, that certainly is a theory.
Remember, Sammy, this episode was your idea. I did some research, motherfucker.
No, you had me until the Great Flood. I
mentioned this in the chat. I just love the fact that aliens with names that sound like this, of course, they abandoned their first kid. Of course they did.
Yep.
I mean, that's it's a stereotype as old as humanity itself. That's wonderful.
And to be fair, what's amazing, this would all be taking place somewhere between Iraq and Sumeria, which is modern day Israel. So we got some dark skinned people here. It also works in that regard.
Like the dad went out for some Mars bars and never came back.
Yeah. Went out.
So there are interesting aspects of this theory in that humanity becoming what we did, the switch flipping, and us, historically speaking, Homo sapiens are very unique in that we have been around for around 30,000 years with next to no progress. We coexisted alongside Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo Adeli, I believe is what it was called. And with no one making, if anyone, the Neanderthals were actually making the most progress. And then out of the blue, we went from 30,000 years of being the exact same to rapidly creating tools and going to war with the Neanderthals, which should have been a far outclassed us. And within generations, we were able to wipe them out. We were able to start, again, creating poetry, music. The Neanderthals made music. The Neanderthals had societies, and we were able to fast track, do the same thing. So the question then becomes, was there a third party that did some extraterrestrial gene splicing that enhanced this?
I mean,
well, there you
go. Yeah, but you can also argue that, once you kind of open Pandora's box in a certain amount of technology, it probably rapidly.
No, this is a common misconception. I thought the same thing you did, Jay. I looked this up earlier. Sumeria is not, ancient Sumeria is not considered part of Mesopotamia. That's and unless what I was reading was wrong, because I thought the same thing you did. And the reason that this comes up is because there is actual Mesopotamian lore that has to do with Anu and Ki, and it had nothing to do with aliens. They were just gods in the Fertile Crescent. But no, Sumeria was actually in the location that would be closer to Israel, whereas Mesopotamia is in Iraq, which is between the Tigris and Euphrates, where the Fertile Crescent is. Sorry, continue, Sammy.
Oh no, I'm just saying, especially with rudimentary tools and everything, but I feel like once you reach a certain level of technology, you're going to advance rapidly. And I mean, what is it? The 8 basic machines,
like pulleys, levers, things to that effect.
Yes, things like that. You're going to see an influx. I'm sure recording using using written language, whether it be actual alphabet or glyphics, those things. But yes, it is kind of astounding that we went such a long time not doing those things, and all of a sudden we just did those things. But I would also argue that yes, those things would probably all go hand in hand pretty quickly. Yeah, I'm just, you know what I mean? It just seems.
Jay, you were correct. My bad. I was mixing 2 different ancient alien theories. My bad. Sorry, continue, Sammy.
Oh no, I'm
there's a lot of ancient alien theories. They all blend together. That was my bad.
They do.
Continue.
And yeah, and also, Goodwin. This is we all understand that these are strange, like theories and everything. So thanks for keeping us honest. we didn't say we did a ton of homework on this. This was just hey, what do you want to talk about for the show?
I've been in my computer all day doing homework on this. I won't even lie.
I wanted to be. I was swamped all day. And it was like every time the phone would ring, I'd be like, "Damn it! I'm trying to think about ancient aliens."
When you hear ancient aliens, not talking about the TV show, because people will be like, "Oh, aliens helped build the pyramids," or "Oh, aliens taught us to farm and whatnot," and you can keep going back further. And the reason I started with this one is this is, to my knowledge, the earliest I could find on the timeline of what would be considered aliens interacting with early hominids when we didn't even have civilization yet. And then we can go forward and whatnot and talk about, the Egyptians, things to that effect. So,
yeah. Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now, and
well, shit, something jumps out at you. Bring it up.
Yeah, I am. I'm just it's basically saying, and then there one of the noted ones was Eric von Deinken, or whatever the hell his name is, but a lot of people regard him as a crazy person. But but he did write Chariots of the Gods. But
so let's talk about that. So you brought up Chariots of the Gods. Let's talk about that. That is something that is referenced in. There's three things that make these sorts of theories interesting, and that is Chariots of the Gods aspect, the Great Flood aspect, and the creation aspect. All of which are very similar across multiple religions the world over. Like there's over 140 religions that have the Great Flood, for example. All religions that had no interaction with one another in the ancient times. So let's start with Chariot of the Gods. Why is it you think that we see all these cultures that depict something very similar in terms of that chariot?
So I believe his theory was something called paleo contact, and that's basically. I'm not a huge. I haven't reviewed it much, but it was. Yes, for some reason, everything was. it all correlates because there was a massive event. I'm assuming here. Oh, there it is. Let me click on it. Paleo contact.
So while you're pulling that up, Gord King, why do you think it is that we see all these religions and cultures that have never intersected, or at least hadn't at the time, that came up with the same sort of depictions of these sorts of events, creatures, technology, the whole nine?
Well, obviously, I mean, because I believe it's true. I believe Christianity is true, and I believe other religions are, spinning events that actually happened. They're missing. It's like they're missing elements of the truth, but it's like I think that tends to happen as stories. It's kind of like a game of telephone. The story gets additions and subtractions as it goes across the world. But I know the reference to Chariots of the Gods.
What makes this one interesting is these cultures. This is so early in human history; these cultures hadn't intersected yet. We're talking pre-Civ, effectively, which is what makes it the question. Because I agree with you on, I'd say 90% of cases, but in this instance, it's strange because if they all got this story, it all had to come from somewhere, and it wasn't each other, so it couldn't be a game of telephone per se.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like where chariots of, because in the Bible they're called chariots of fire, and it comes from, as far as I know, there may be other references to it, and I can look that up. I have a pretty good source for that, but I know one reference at least comes.
Sorry, continue. That was funny.
It comes from 2 Kings, chapter 6, where let's see, it says, then Elisha prayed, "O Lord, please open his eyes that he may see." So the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Which it sounds more like a vision than an actual event. I'd have to read the entirety of it to be sure of that. It could be an actual thing that he saw too. Just going by what little I've read thus far of it. It's a pretty lengthy passage with a lot of context, so I don't want to take it out of context. But as far as it's like I tend to think when multiple cultures out of contact with one another describe a similar event, there's likely at least some truth to it. And it's just, whatever additions are made here and there, whatever differences they share is just that's what happens when, different people groups describe the same thing. There's just little differences here and there.
Well, Sammy, if you want to go ahead and give us, first of all, if you want to respond, it's a Gord, and then if not, there's the paleo word that I was not familiar with. So
yes, the paleo contact, or it's basically imposing the fact that humans kind of all originated in the same place. So they just didn't pop up all over the globe. You know what I mean? It was through evolution.
Right. Again, Mesopotamia, the Fertile Crescent, is where is the birthplace of humanity.
They were all practicing certain things, and those things just carried into different religions, and they took those original beliefs with them wherever they went. So they might have evolved into something completely different
over the course of literal multiple generations as humans continue to spread out. I mean, like, let's be real. We can all trace our ancestry back to the same, portion of the world, like humans as a whole. But how different our cultures end up becoming, our beliefs and structures and whatnot. Yet visually, all these remained very consistent.
Well, it's also been theorized that humans' memories were a lot stronger before we started keeping like a written history, because
That's
everything
correct. I
was,
misspoke. Thank you.
yeah. Uh, before we had this, started having these written accounts, so it was all verbal tradition, and which makes more sense to me because how many times have you had like a friend group witness the same event and 5 of them got, 5 different stories, you know what I mean? So about the same thing, they all agree that one thing happened. Everybody saw it differently because, not everybody is the same person.
But
So I
wouldn't
mean,
that lead to the idea that the depictions would be different and all these, whether it be
well,
writings
they
on
are
walls?
slightly different. They are different in their own way. I mean, they're not verbatim. I mean, it's the same thing, but sometimes the controls are snakes. Sometimes, when you're talking about like these chariots of the gods, if you will, I mean, there's similarities, sure, but they're not the same design. They're, you know what I mean, but they're telling the same story. It's just they're getting there a different way, and you know, uh, and like I said, this is all speculation.
Mhm.
This is why a reason that one of these theories might go this way. But again, I don't fucking know.
Yes, Ross, that's true. Rebel Moon was truly dreadful. I think if the aliens knew that Rebel Moon would end up becoming of us, they never would have spliced their team.
That's when they turned around. They saw a Zack Snyder movie. They were like, "What has become of these people? It's lost."
So let's take so we'll move on from the paintings and the carvings to the Great Flood. Again, almost all religions, whether they be or cultures, Chinese, Native American, ancient Greece, obviously Christianity, have their own version of the Great Flood and their own stories that come with it. Gilgamesh, Noah, the whole nine. So this would imply, at least to me, that this is something that 100% unequivocally happened in human history, but happened long before civilization itself. I assume Younger Dryas, but I'll leave it open to you guys.
I mean, obviously, I more or less do believe in the flood. I mean, I'm a biblical Christian, so it's like I believe what the Bible says. So again, it just kind of goes back to something. It's like this thing happened, and it's like people all over. It's like I mean, granted, if going by the biblical account, obviously there were very few people left. They lived a lot longer than normal humans. In the Bible, I'm trying to remember. Noah, I want to say lived.
He was like 170, wasn't he?
He was over 900. Let me see. Noah's age.
No, I think it was. I could be wrong. I think it was Methuselah was 969.
He was 969, but there were actually a lot of people who lived. Yeah, Noah died at the age of 950.
Damn, he almost beat his record.
I'm thinking of Moses.
Yeah, Moses. Yeah. At a certain point in Scripture, like the days of man are limited, but then from the end, basically from Noah and his family, like the rest of the population spread over time. Later, like I said, the days of man were limited. Obviously, not everybody from the family of Noah would have stayed faithful to God. Just, and different cultures, different religions, spurned up different people with different thoughts and descriptions on events, that kind of thing. So if you're going by the biblical account, that's a kind of generally a way to sum up what would have happened there.
So then let's go ahead and do the debunking portion of this, and then we'll get into some of the pros of it. I think it'd probably be let's start off explaining why this is bullshit. Assuming unless you got anything else, unless you want to do it a different way, Sammy. This is your show too.
No. This is great. I would like to start with the cons.
So
yeah, let's people know that we actually have our feet on the ground.
Right. So everything I laid out in the beginning about the Annunaki and whatnot, that all comes from a book, a book called The 12th Planet, which was written by Zechariah Sitchin. Yes. that book was actually relatively successful. Went on to become a series of, I believe, 9 books or something like that. I've only read The 12th Planet. I've not read any of the others. He's not really that great of a writer, which is why I said he's very similar to L. Ron Hubbard. Like, hey, my science fiction books aren't selling. Let's start a religion. Well, rather than starting a religion, this guy seems to start an AU or an alternate history. So Sitchin spent 20 years teaching himself ancient Sumerian, and he translated literally thousands of texts. There's one problem with this, though. And can any of you guys guess what it is?
I don't know. He's a liar. He's full of shit.
Not quite, actually. Gord, what about you?
No,
do you have any ideas as to why he was this didn't work?
I do not know.
Well, what do you think his profession was?
Car salesman.
Oh, close, but no.
Close?
Close to a car salesman.
Okay. He wasn't a salesman, but like you're correct in the fact that instead of being like a teacher or a historian, that he did just work a regular ass 9 to 5.
Telemarketer.
No, he worked for a shipping company in New York.
And
must have paid him well because he was able to, for 20 years, cover Sumerian text. And yes, Jay Goodwin, this part I am going to say you're wrong about. No, Sumeria does in fact, we have thousands of Sumerian carved into limestone texts that are on display museums all over. Scientists still study Sumerian text to this day. Yes, we do have Sumerian text. It's not like written in terms of on papyrus like the Egyptians did. It's more
no, it's stone carving.
Geoglyphic, but it is still text. It is written on rock. So anyway, but yeah, he was from a shipping company in New York, and so he decides he wants to learn about this stuff. He finds it fascinating, and he self-teaches himself. He's self-taught in translating Sumerian. He's not a good translator. He turned out to be a very, very bad translator.
I did the same thing with Spanish, and when I realized every word was the N word, I was like, I'm not doing this right.
So let's take the word Anunnaki, for example, since that's the one that his whole theory hinges on, is this alien race called the Anunnaki. He translated it to mean those who from the heavens came. It does not mean that at all. It means royal blood or royal offspring.
Oh, okay.
It's a very different translation.
Like me.
It's like the Gord King. You are the true Anunnaki. Yes.
Hey, that's hey, like it's like the name says. I am riding on the chariots of gourds. They were wrong all along. It's not aliens.
Yeah,
Daxnar is right. Yes, like a modern anime translator. He was more of a localizer than he was.
Yeah, he was a localizer for Sumerian.
So there were cultures that did have the words Anu and Ki, which is where he gets Anunnaki from. However, Anu was the king of gods, and Ki was his concubine. So that's where you get Anunnaki being the offspring, royal offspring, royal blood. It is just the offspring of King Anu and his concubine Ki, the Anunnaki.
Whoops.
Yeah. Again, so he's not off to a very good start. But that being said, he was doing all this research, which was considered legitimate research at the time, in the 70s. What didn't we have a whole lot of in the 70s? Fact checking, bingo, bango, bongo. So a lot of folks took him at his word. Like, the reason this theory has propelled so much and still exists in the modern day is because there weren't a lot of people translating ancient Sumerian at the time. So they thought this dude knew his shit. They didn't realize he just worked for a shipping company in New York and was spending time around rocks thinking he knew what he was talking about.
I was like, I'm never going to get down on someone for wanting to better themselves and
of course not.
Having a hobby, but like, maybe fact check.
It's like somebody who thinks they're teaching themselves how to fly a helicopter by playing a video game. It's like, oh, dude, you're not. That's when you get in there. It's not going to be a PlayStation remote. It's not how it works.
I'm just imagining that like Rosetta Stone commercial was like, I'm learning Spanish so I can have a conversation with my abuela. I'm learning ancient Sumerian so I can
So I can contact our ancient alien overlords. They're gonna come down and they're gonna help us fight the interdimensional pedophiles that are ran by the government because I'm kind of retarded.
The Anunnaki jerked off in the primordial soup.
All hail Gordon King of the true Annunaki. Fact checking has become so cringe.
My wife, ladies and gentlemen, my wife.
Is that really your wife?
That's my wife.
Oh, what up, Mrs. 3 Feet? Love to see you here. That's
How
amazing.
you doing? I mean, she's not wrong. I mean, she's not wrong. We have fact checking. It's just it's maybe slightly more accurate than, you know, just trying to translate a language on your own without much of a resource. But
well, also like I said, he didn't have a lot of people to like bounce those ideas off of. It's not like it was like, oh, well, I'll put you in touch with my uncle. He speaks, you know, he's
gosh,
from
imagine
ancient
doing
Mesopotamia.
all that work to decrypt a language and just found, oh, I went wrong the whole way. It's like, ooh.
Yeah,
would you ever admit it though, or would you just stick to it and just be like, no, this is how it went down. It's all the scientists that were wrong. Like it's kind of like old school COVID mentality.
I think I'd bury my head in the sand and never reemerge. I'd be so embarrassed.
But see, gourds don't grow real well in sand.
Put out more books,
which is wither and die.
Let's see if I can find the image of the 12th planet as to why he believed this. Okay, here it is. Let's pull this up on screen.
This is awesome.
Yeah, this part's pretty great because so I can kind of see where he was coming from with this. If you look right here, you got this piece of ancient Sumerian geoglyph, right? And if you look right here, you got the sun, and you got all these celestial bodies. So he believed that the Sumerians knew of all the celestial bodies in the solar system, and that the aliens, the Anunnaki. Hey, what's up, Foily? We got a Foily with us now. So Foily, we've got these 12 celestial bodies here. How many planets do you think there are?
There are 8 planets.
See, Foily gets it. He's on top of things. In fact, not only are there 8 planets, the ancient Sumerians only knew 7 of them.
Rest is a bunch of commie gobbledygook.
I got the clip for that. There we go.
Offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
It's nice to know the Foilies that respects Norm Macdonald.
Heck yeah.
What up, Abomination AJ? Appreciate you showing up, brother.
What up, AJ?
So the ancient Sumerians, believe it or not, didn't have telescopes. Just wasn't a thing quite yet. And so the only planets that they were able to, they actually were pretty fucking good for me in the naked eye. They had mapped out to Saturn.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, that's actually like for an ancient culture like that, really cool. But there's not 12 planets if they only map the first 7.
Yeah.
Oh shit, Morgan's right.
About
Foily does talk like Goofy.
Imposter.
I was sneaking. I was trying to eat something, so when you called me out on it, I wasn't really like prepared. But
I like how you've been doing Foily impressions to get prepped for this. That's great.
You know, she saw me running around the house like a crazy person. Is like, and this is Illuminoid, and
I can't wait till the characters become a fucking thing.
And she said fact checking is cringe.
Yep. Yeah. How do you like them apples?
So we were also talking about the the flying vehicles and whatnot. Those do appear all over a bunch of ancient religions. Guess which one they don't appear in?
Sumerian?
Ancient Sumerian, yeah. The idea of like the chariots of fire and whatnot, that's not, it's in a bunch of others. That's not actually a part of the ancient Sumerian. So, yep, he's not doing so hot. Right, the planet. Does anybody remember what the planet was called?
What, Anunnaki? Or
Nibiru?
No, that was the alien race.
Oh.
Yeah, yes, Nibiru. It means crossing. He did sort of translate this one correctly. He did translate properly as crossing. His interpretation of what crossing meant, wildly incorrect. He thought that meant a planet crossing over into Earth's atmosphere. It does not mean that. It means the crossing of the planets throughout the sky to mark the change of the seasons and the solstice.
Okay, that makes way more sense. And
yeah,
I think that would have been trackable and would have had an effect on their, not daily lives, but
yeah, like their financial lives, knowing when to bring in the harvest, things like that. So it's
track the seasons. Yeah.
Props to him for getting the translation correct. How he interpreted it as another fucking planet intersecting with Earth, I have no idea. And then last but not least, let's see.
Kind of sounds like he had some headcanon going in,
Yes, that's sort of what I'm thinking. Oh, okay. And then the Great Flood, which we talked about a little bit. Again, Gilgamesh, Noah, and Nephiston. I mean, there exists in over 140 religions. I don't know if the Younger Dryas impact theory had been proposed at the time of 1972 when he wrote his book. I honestly didn't check when the Younger Dryas theory started, but yeah, the idea that the Great Flood was caused by a planet intersecting with Earth, I would wager probably not the case, because the planet supposedly has an elliptical orbit that will cross with Earth every 3,600 years, and if the math is correct, we will see it in the year 2900. But I highly doubt that that's what happened, and that's not the reason for the Great Flood.
I hope we're all wrong. I hope we're wrong on the date. I hope the next Great Flood is like next week.
Fuck that! I'm afraid of water, dude. Like I would rather a lake of fire than a lake of water.
We got boats now.
Gooch. Oh yeah, we do have Gooch. First of all, what's up, Gooch? Appreciate you being here, buddy.
Just so you know, that theory, it was proposed by Ignatius Donnelly in 1883.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So he absolutely should have known about this theory then, and maybe he just chose to ignore it, because Younger Dryas actually does make a lot of sense. Younger Dryas is a very good theory. It's one that I do ascribe to. There's nothing kooky or crazy about it. It just sort of explains why. Like, and when you take a look at the Sphinx, for example, if you dig down into the base of the Sphinx, there is all sorts of rock that looks like it's been water eroded. But why would there be water erosion if it's in a desert? Well, it didn't used to be a desert. Younger Dryas. I believe the theory is a meteor or some celestial body careened into Earth, caused an accelerated greenhouse effect, melted the ice caps. Therefore, we get the Great Flood. And then, a lot of people die, but humans are resilient.
Oh, you guys are going to love this, what I just came across.
Lay it on us.
A lot of people debunk this and say that it's rooted in white supremacy.
No way.
As is everything else.
Those dang white supremacist Sumerians.
I would show your screen. I would love to see this.
Yeah, okie dokie. Let's
They're saying Younger Dryas is white supremacy, or the Anunnaki belief?
No, just the theory in general has been adapted by white supremacists. I said, yeah, the idea that ancient astronauts. Hold on. Furthermore, the history thought shows proponents that have been adopted by white supremacist beliefs to argue that indigenous cultures around the world were incapable of feats of technology and culture that they achieved. So, so of course, as everything else, white man bad.
I didn't think of this, of all shows that I do. I think this is the one where we would turn to fucking white supremacy.
Yeah.
Who?
Apparently it's mostly this dude, like Eric Anton Paul von Dyanken. Apparently he's a big he's a big perpetuate of this. Where I don't even think that he's meaning to do it. It's just it might come across.
Basically, white supremacy took the tinfoil hat and turned it into a white pointy one.
Yes.
That's what we did.
Yes.
These people have cans. They couldn't have built this without aliens.
It's like,
I hope things get better for you.
I've seen the way they put a burger together at Wendy's. Ain't no way they're building pyramids.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? So that leads to another theory proposed by somebody else who actually is a doctor as to why we might have alien DNA in us. So Dr. Ellis Silver, he has a book called Humans Are Not From Earth. And he lays out what makes humans vastly different from any other species, which Gord, you were saying earlier, yeah, we are special because we're doing all these things that other species and creatures aren't. Well, Dr. Silver here, he says that no other species has evolved to lose hair, yet we have, and that actually makes us more susceptible to injury, sunburn, we're more fragile, we take hits, things like that, because it's not the fur to take the impact. He says that in fact, we have back pain, and the fact that we slowly develop back pain almost universally throughout the course of our lives is because the alien DNA that's spliced into us is from a far less, where gravity's far lighter, a planet where gravity's far lighter. And so as we grow, the gravity puts strain on us, which causes compression on our spine. And his last point that he makes is that there's an abundance of food in the world, vegetables, fruits, the whole nine. And we choose to create foods that are bad for us, like things that are high in carbs and fats and sugars, things that maybe an alien organism would need as part of their daily nutritional value, but we don't need that, yet we crave it and create it anyway. I think that's absolute bullshit, but that's really funny. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it.
Okay, well, two things. If you look at pictures of older like chimpanzees, they 100% start to lose their hair. And also just throwing this out there, we have like 60% identical genes that like bananas have. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It was like we share, like common genetic traits with the not just simian species.
Yeah, I believe we're something like 66% the same as a potato or something like
that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it was like there's other things on Earth that would suggest that we are terrestrial beings.
But also you could say maybe the Annunaki also gave us potatoes and bananas. Maybe those are actually, from the planet of Nibiru. Nibiru, very similar to Chiquita Charlie, and bananas are aliens confirmed.
Potatoes are rooted in
yeah.
supremacy.
Ooh, maybe that's where the chant came from. They were all like sitting around the temple, like, I like to eat apples and bananas.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where Dr. Silver got his degree, but that seems.
Yeah,
I like because there is a theory that if we had lighter gravity, we would live longer. Because I think this has been debunked, but it was posited back in God knows when that our heart works for 60, 70, 80, 90 years to keep pumping blood. Our joints stay upright, because we walk. And over the course of time, gravity takes its toll. It breaks down. That's why we have arthritis. That's why we die. And if we were able to live on a society that, let's say, had the gravitational field of the moon, a lot lower gravity, we could live to be 130, 150, 160. And again, cool theory. Science does not back that up, but maybe he's pulling from that theory.
Yeah, and also, there's nothing wrong with posing a theory. There's plenty of theories that have been posed and have been debunked, and theories that
like the theory that naps are racist.
Yes, or and then there's theories that were long thought debunked that we ended up reevaluating, and we found that to be truer to after like research and everything. I mean, hi buddy. And then there was a long time, what was it? Was like the three until Beaumont, discovered like gastric digestion. They still went off of like there was I don't want to call them chakras, but it was like the 3 vapors, the 3 espers.
Oh, I've heard of this. I'm not near as familiar with it, but I'm familiar with what you're referring to. Yes, and no, I'm sort of leaning towards maybe believing that. You're laughing, but like, I am unconvinced at this point. Thanks, government. If you ask me,
I'm not laughing. I'm not necessarily laughing at the claim. Just I laugh at the whole situation in general.
Yeah, I just think they lie to us for different reasons, but
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, Leon, did we go to the moon? I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Ask me now after all this shit's been going down, and I'm like, it wouldn't surprise me if the U.S. government lied about that to get one over on the Russians. I'm not entirely sure now. I really hope we went to the moon because that's pretty badass. But, well, we went there in the 60s, never been back, and we lost all the technology. That does, when you put it like that, it sounds just as crazy as this Annunaki stuff.
Or
Jay Fells says didn't happen.
Fellas get silly. Yeah, I mean, or is it more plausible that we got acclaimed director and lighting specialist Stanley Kubrick to film the whole thing, and he put hints in The Shining. It's all there. And Danny Torrance's sweater.
I mean, I think nuclear weapons exist. Yeah, is there a theory there that I'm missing? I would love to hear about that, Zax. So here's, anyone have any cons to add to this before we get into some pros as to where there might be some validity to maybe not the Anunnaki thing, but the idea of ancient aliens?
I mean, it would have to be, there would have to be something so astronomically like unquestionable for me to really get behind this theory the way that it is,
Well, for one thing, in order to believe that aliens, believing that aliens existed, okay, I can understand believing that, given the vastness of the universe. Believing aliens have been here actually takes a rather massive leap of faith. Because we've probably observed something. I think I've read we've observed something like around 3,000, 3,300-ish planets. Never have found a planet with life, let alone a planet teeming with life as ours is. And okay, you look at our planet; it's teeming with life. We have millions upon millions of species. One of them is intelligent enough to, have space travel or anything remotely close to developing that kind of technology where we can travel great distances.
To clarify, Gord, I said I don't know if I believe we went to the moon. I 100% believe we've been to space. Just so
no, I know. I think we all believe that, obviously. That there's too much evidence we've been to space at this point. But you have to not only believe that there is another species out there capable. It's not enough that they be capable of space travel. They have to be so insanely advanced in terms of space travel. I mean, in a way that we really can't fathom, because if you look at just the distances between Earth and even the next closest star after the sun, I mean, we're talking, it takes so long. It would take so long for us to travel to just the next closest star because it's light years away. It's kind of mind-boggling. Like literally, if you had a species that was living in a, for a similar amount of years that we would, you would basically you would require a civilization willing to move their civilization closer to ours just to visit us, unless they are.
I mean, there's stars in the sky that we see that are long dead. Like, the light is just hitting us now. So I mean, it's unfathomably far away.
Yeah, you would need an alien species that is like they would have to be advanced in space travel by means at which we can't even fathom at this point.
Right.
I mean, it's a really big stretch, and not only that, and that's just one massive hurdle. Then you have to start getting into, okay, if there's this many species, why would they even bother traveling here? What do they have? What do we have here? And granted, all the sci-fi movies like to say, well, we have resources. And I'm like, if you believe aliens exist out there, why would you not believe those same resources can't be found anywhere else? probably in closer.
Yeah, why come to Earth when Saturn's moons have more methane than we could possibly ever need?
Why go to an inhabited planet to begin with? You could face resistance. I mean, if you are an advanced civilization, obviously you would understand the concept of resistance.
Or War of the Worlds style, like they're not adapted to our biome. They catch a fucking cold, and that's how we beat the aliens. Like,
yeah.
It's
by the way, it rains diamonds on Neptune, so like, get your bling on.
Hopefully, if aliens return, they just focus on abducting trans people. Most of those people end up leaving Earth on their own anyway. It's a good target for the aliens.
Theory: trans people are aliens.
I don't want to give them that much credit. I mean, I get why the theory is appealing, but you have to remember they have to be intelligent.
Oh, okay. Actually, no, because not all trans. I don't find all trans people annoying. I find all queer.
Not annoying. Not annoying. Delusional.
Delusional. Okay, everybody's delusional.
Mama Badger coming to that 10 banger. Really enjoying this totally different kind of stream, panel, and chat. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, this is something Sammy and I cooked up that we're gonna keep doing every week and we have a lot of fun with. Dude, thank you. I truly appreciate it. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And let's give you some level complete music. Oh, thank you so much, Mama Badger. You didn't need to, but you did. It absolutely means the world to me. Zach says, I get the motivation question for aliens, but we're talking about colonizing Mars when most of Earth is uninhabited. Also, most of Earth is water, to be fair. I don't want to inhabit water. I know what you mean, but I'm being snarky. Yeah. Blair White's a good tranny. Blair White's a good tranny.
Yeah, I like I said, there's a couple of them out there, but
like just to give a little, because I'm going from NASA. It says there's a question that people ask. It says, how long would it take to reach the closest star? It is Voyager is traveling away from the sun at a rate of 17.3 kilometers per second. If Voyager were to travel to Proxima Centauri, which is the next closest star, at this rate, it would take over 73,000 years to arrive. That's
pretty saying there's a chance.
So in the ancient texts of the 1972 book, The 12th Planet, it is stated the Annunnaki's lifespan is 200,000 years. So it's not impossible. They would just spend a lot of time on a one-way trip, and I just imagine your alien children asking, "Are we there yet? Nanu?" Like,
yeah, Nanu.
Antarctica is turning into rocky green plains, though, so I can foresee a political movement for colonization forming. I hadn't heard that. I had to look into that.
Yeah, like even traveling the speed of light, which I'm pretty sure is not. I mean, I'm fairly certain that's impossible. Yeah, it says impossible due to special relativity. It would take over 4 years.
And we would need to travel beyond the speed of light for it to actually work. Otherwise, you're actually losing ground, losing time as you travel. So,
and granted, I've heard some people theorize because the game Mass Effect, actually, this is what they employ to explain this, is because there is a theory about, well, you're not actually traveling that amount of space. You're basically bending space. It's kind of the rubber band thing. You make a mark on a rubber band, you stretch the rubber band, and that dot travels without actually traveling. Like it moves, it moves without traveling. So that's the idea. Like if you were to actually be able to travel those distances, that's the kind of technology you would require.
And that's the difference between Star Wars and Star Trek. And that in Star Wars, they're traveling, light speed or even faster than light, as opposed to in Star Trek, what their warp drives do is you got, point A, point B, and it puts a gravitational pull down here in the middle, and it pulls it down and brings them together, which is why they're able to actually make the jump. So they're literally warping the space time that way that it physically changes the distance. But here are some interesting pros. Now, I'm not saying they're true, but these are some interesting pros to consider. So this entire story isn't debunked in terms of like, oh, aliens came and put their DNA into humans, because that's not too far off from how most creation myths work. And that
I like how that was worded. Aliens came and put their DNA into humans.
Yes.
But before that, they arrived.
A lot of video games with hot aliens.
Nailed it.
But yeah, no. So you think a lot of religions have, a tear from God hit the earth and that made man, or the blood of God, or that humans came from God. Humans came from clay and God's essence. So the wording here is a lot more fantastical in the religious way, but it's not really different in terms of, oh, aliens put their essence into another being and then that created humans. It's actually real similar to a lot of religious beliefs in that.
Yeah,
regard.
it's basically taking from the concept of God made man in his image. It's just taking that. It's like, okay, it's transplanting God with aliens, but keeping the concept made in their image.
Right. This one is really interesting to me. I did not know this until I was again doing the deep dive today. So Eridu and Ur were at ancient lost Sumerian cities, and we thought they were just myths. They we'd seen about them in the writings and whatnot, but we're just like, oh, whatever, religious hocus pocus, just like what's happening in almost any religion. Even as someone who ascribes to Christianity, there are some things that are in the Bible that just physically don't make sense in terms of the laws of physics and whatnot. It's like, okay, that's a human interpretation for something they can't understand. But we actually found these cities. We found these. It was a British archaeologist, because of fucking course it was. I should have taken his name down. Did find these cities. And when they opened the tomb of Ur, they found the remains of the very first queen of Sumeria, Queen Puabi, I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly. And yeah, so in the offspring, or in the legend, the offspring between Alil and his human, his human concubine, had a child, and that was the first, like, what would be known as us real humans, not the ones they made in the lab. And so it would, of course, would have characteristics of both. Well, she does. This queen has a massive elongated skull, just like it was theorized that the Anunnaki had. And all petitions to test the skull's DNA have been shut down by the government. Now, if we want to look at the Paracas skulls, which were found in Peru, which is very, very far from where ancient Sumeria was, we found very similar. These skulls are almost identical to hers.
Oh, the skull binding.
Yeah, we have tested the DNA of the Paracas skulls, and even though they were found in Peru and they predate human travel between the oceans, they have DNA of individuals that is only found in the Middle East. That one I can't explain.
Inbreeding.
Like we're talking skulls that were found that are the exact same shape as the one found in the city of Ur. In a completely different part of the world, where there should have been no connection at this point in human history, and yet they've got Middle Eastern DNA. I don't have an explanation for that. I don't know if you guys, I mean, jokes or not, have one, but
yeah, it's something I have to read a little bit more about. I have it pulled up. I might have to read a bit about it later.
It's also strange to me that they will not allow us to DNA test this body of this queen that has been discovered in a city that we thought was a myth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting.
Like,
says, look, I got around a lot during prehistory.
Daisy Ridley's forehead.
I had the wrong one. Middle East could be a bit unexpected, but ancient Americans had to come from the main continent at some point. That's the question, is the at some point, and the bat dating of this is either humans traveled way earlier than we realized, or something else happened. And I mean, that very well could be the explanation of, hey, there's been like 46 ice ages or some stupid number. We create the land bridge. The land bridge brought what would eventually be known as Native Americans here to America from somewhere in Asia. Like that, it very well could have been something like that. But because there's no evidence of that yet, we don't know.
Yeah, but I can also say like things like skull binding and everything. I mean, you're dealing with people, they weren't waiting for the latest game release. They had a little bit more free time. I'm sure at some point in time, someone figured out that if you start wrapping tight bands around your head at a young age, you can change the shape of your skull. That doesn't seem that far-fetched to me. It's the same thing. It was like a lot of cultures had human sacrifice. A lot of cultures had similar gods that they wanted to appease.
Those African cultures that do like the neck stretching thing, like the bands around women's necks. The elongated skull is not indicative of this queen. Is not indicative of aliens. It's the fact they won't let us test it, and the comparison to other skulls found in Peru that actually have hypothetically have similar DNA. That's the leap that I can't make, because skull binding is absolutely a thing. Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. And or who knows? Queen Punani just may have had her own vibe.
Say her name again.
Punani.
Puabi, but I like Punani better.
Yeah, Punani.
Believe it or not, I'm a big fan of the Punani.
Yeah, me too.
That's what they thought her name was. That's how she became queen.
Now, this is
I like her.
my favorite portion of the theory. Or not theory, but it's my favorite question that, again, I don't have an answer to. So when we talk about the size, or when we talk about, the brain and why we were able to evolve and make tools and civilization, and we're compared to Neanderthals, is, oh man, Homo sapiens had just such larger brains. That's true compared to other animals, but Neanderthals actually had the same size brain as us, and yet we were the ones that figured all this out. They didn't. And then you add into that, you've got what's called Homo naledi, which actually had far smaller brains than us, but they also built simple tools. And we even found proof that they've done things such as buried their dead and given burial rites, which would imply they had some sort of religious structure or something to that effect. So I don't think brain size is not what the answer here. In fact, it is something that we recently found out called TKTL1. Now, the TKTL1 gene is a gene that is in all early hominids, Homo sapien, Neanderthals, the Homo naledi, the whole nine.
This isn't the Eve gene, is it?
I hadn't heard it called that, but if I explain what it is, maybe you'll be able to confirm or deny.
Okay.
So TKTL1 is in all these early hominids. However, in only Homo sapien, we had a mutation of this gene. So Neanderthals had it, and Neanderthals had it, but we had a mutation of this gene, and it rapidly increased the speed at which our brains evolved and are able to grow neurons. We were able to start growing neurons at a far more rapid pace than these other early hominids. So we process data faster, the whole nine. So if that's the case, we've got this mutation in this gene. Why did it only happen to us if we had almost identical brains? So Neanderthals, for example, and it was only this one single amino acid. When you do things with one single amino acid, that is, in modern science, indicative of gene splicing. We'll do it to apples, or we do it to animals when we're breeding them, things to that effect. It being just random, we'll activate this one gene just in this one subsect of early hominid. That's weird. It's possible, but that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess maybe we just had the right recipe. 11
herbs and spices of the human genome.
Yes, exactly. They just didn't have the chutzpah.
Now, as a Christian, I have a biblical answer to this. I'm sorry, go for it, Gord.
No, go ahead. I was just making a joke.
Well, I would rather hear your joke than my seriousness.
I just said amino acid is the best acid. That's all.
I agree.
So I do think this. So when you look at the Bible and you look at, God did X, Y, Z in 6 days. On the seventh day, he rested. I do not believe that it was 7 days in terms of 24-hour cycles. No, because when you look at the ancient Aramaic text, they only had about 3,000 words as opposed to our roughly 150,000. So a lot of words were repeated verbally and visually, but they meant something different. And the word for day is the same as time. So it should actually be read, at least my interpretation is, God made the heavens and the earth over 6 intervals of time, and on the 7th interval he rested. So when you look at that, God can flip a switch, do whatever. I believe in the Big Bang Theory. I also believe that God was the catalyst for the Big Bang Theory. So when you look at this effectively gene spliced amino acid that is a mutation, I mean, that just could be, again, something that was a catalyst from God. It does not mean aliens, but it is strange that it happened in humans. So there is something different about us and why this would happen.
Sure. Yeah.
But see, this is not a mutation in a single person. This was a mutation in a species that happened effectively overnight. I mean, obviously not truly overnight, but a mutation like this that is just one amino acid, and then for it to propagate amongst an entire species, we should see early bones of early hominids or whatnot that have multiple mutations in this same vein. Now, maybe we just haven't discovered any yet, but as it currently stands, we don't have any of that. This was literally the equivalent of a Pokemon evolution.
Okay, well, the guy gets, the one lucky bastard who gets this amino acid and realizes that he's got the magic now, and he starts boning, Look at Nick Cannon. Okay, he's got like 15 kids.
Well,
15 different mothers.
That's money. That's his amino acid.
Okay,
He's got money.
but, you know,
and I mean, because the fact of the matter remains that Homo sapiens stayed the same for at least 30,000 years, if not far longer. So you got 30,000 years of no growth, then almost an immediate change in an entire species overnight. We don't historically see that with any species, human or not. That's weird. And that's the last thing I got for the pros. So really, it's just the no, and there's one more pro. So obviously Nibiru, fake planet. However, in 2015, Caltech did in fact discover a potential ninth planet way deep in the solar system. On the crest or on the precipice of the Kuiper Belt, which is where Nibiru is said to have been, and roughly the size of Neptune, with the same elliptical orbit that is depicted in the book. And now we've not been able to photograph it because of how far away it is, but we have been able to measure the gravitational effects on the Kuiper Belt as well as other celestial bodies, and we have been able to get spectral analysis of it. So there is according to scientists, there's only a 2% chance that this planet isn't there.
Oh wow.
I would love it. So we finally get pictures of it, and it's just like the planet is shaped like Pepe the Frog.
The true 4chan white supremacist planet. That's where Kamala's going to round all of us up and send us on Elon's rockets.
I'm ready.
Yes.
For
so yeah. Once
feels good, man.
It's confirmed, Frank. We would be back to 9. Now again, since we have not seen it, scientists are not willing to go all in and say that it is there. But yeah,
I've heard that it's not necessarily that it's so far away we can't see it. It's that its orbit is so similar to Neptune's that it's basically like it's hiding behind it.
Oh, that's very interesting.
That would be that would be incredibly interesting as well if that was the case, because as far away as it is, it would be whatever rate it's moving at is what I would imagine would be incredibly slow. Not slower, but you get the perception of being slower from the angle of the orbit. And for it to be behind Neptune, which is far closer by comparison, and Neptune is fucking massive. Yeah, I could absolutely see that being the case.
Yeah, it's and going based on the Google search, it's like Planet 9, hypothetical planet that some scientists believe is hiding behind Neptune in the outer solar system, first proposed in 2016, like you said, from Caltech. Yeah. I thought that when you started talking about that, I was like, that sounds really familiar. I feel like I've heard of this recently. It's
the similarities between that and the Nibiru story, again, in terms of its size, where it's located, the elliptical orbit. I'm like, this book was written in 1972. This was 2015.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if he was onto something. Like it would make you wonder what put you on that theory, because it's like how did you happen to kind of get that part of it right? Because that's a wild thing to kind of get right.
And then that's all I have. That's all I have for the pros about this being possible. So from here, feel free to take it away, and we can discuss other ancient alien theories and go from there. But that's basically the first hour was covering the long and the short of it. I know that was for you, buddy. The long and the short.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Let's see.
I'm not saying this won't be back because I wear tinfoil headwear. I appreciate that, Jamalama. Us tinfoil haters got to stay united.
Yes.
And yeah, ancients did definitely know more than we think. I mean, to be fair, if the Library of Alexandria wasn't burned to the fucking ground, we would probably be far more advanced than we were now because of all that ancient knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't really like whenever I hear somebody say, if not for such and such a person, we wouldn't have X. And it's like, well, we eventually would probably have that. It's just how far would it set us back?
That's why I get annoyed when people say, oh, we wouldn't have XYZ band without the Beatles. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a Beatles fan. I am. They may have done it first, but give it 10 years. Maybe someone else would have. Like, we
wouldn't be as commie today if not for freaking John Lennon.
Yeah.
I hate that man so much. I'm a Beatles fan. God, I hate John Lennon.
Yeah, no, he's a douche pickle.
Every week, CLS, every week. This is the new show, Tinfoil Haters. Me and Sammy will just be breaking down a different conspiracy theory every week with a new guest.
Well, and my buddy Zach from Gooch's streams, he definitely wants to come on and talk about reptilians. So we'll have to get him on.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, this and I was like, oh, why did I think about that? He's been talking about this theory since I've known him. But
I had a
everybody's
friend in the relationship, like a friendship with me over calling Mark Zuckerberg a reptilian.
I don't deny it.
She had slowly been going woke, and I hadn't talked to her in probably about a year or so. And out of the blue, I was like, "Hey, I wonder how she's doing." And so I hit her up, and we were talking.
Up.
Oh, dude, and as I hit her up, and we were talking and whatnot, and she said something about I don't remember what led into it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, well, except for Mark Zuckerberg, he's a reptilian." And she's like, "I'm gonna need you to not use anti-Semitic language." And I was like, "Wait, what?"
What?
This was her explanation, and I still don't understand it. Her explanation was the reptilian thing is a myth, and it was perpetuated by anti-Semites to make the Jews seem less than human.
Oh my gosh.
I had never heard that. I've never fact-checked it. I don't think it's true, and even if it is true, fuck it, I'm gonna keep calling people reptilian.
Yeah.
I wonder if she would be more hip
it's
to
so
that
weird
theory
to me
now
that they take offense to shit like that. It was like, oh, so like something's going on there. If you said that we had like these, not mentioning cultures like subhumans who have like somehow infiltrated every aspect of organization in humankind, and then Jews are going, I don't like that. And then you're like, wait, why did you think that was
Why
about
did you jump to being offended by that?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, if you are a lizard person, why would you think us calling you that means you're subhuman? I mean, shoot, if you're rolling everything, if anything, we're saying you're above humans.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Now,
I'm curious how those people theory about language such as that when like Zuckerberg is kind of starting to say that he's a little bit more pro-Trump now. And I'm like,
I know.
How do you feel about that term now?
The bird people, by the way, the bird people is the one true rulers, because they can fly.
Birds aren't real. We all know that.
Yeah,
that's my favorite. That might be my
lies.
favorite conspiracy theory is that all birds are drones.
I always don't have. I am a card-carrying member of Birds Aren't Real.
I freaking love that. I love Kentucky
I heard
Fried
David
drones.
say that Jews are just the name for reptilian that Arabs use. What? Who's David? David Icke?
Yeah, but just to say stuff like that, just to be like, hey, I have a theory that, all the ice cream in ice cream trucks isn't made of actual ice cream. It's just, a bunch of artificial shit. And then a Jewish person goes, we don't control the banks. And you're like, whoa. We weren't talking about that. Like,
I love that we got a black dude in the chat. You're my man. He says, the Jews are real defensive and sensitive, huh? I wonder why. I'm loving that someone else is racist besides the white people.
Like I said, I don't got a problem with Jewish people. It's just that's like really weird. Okay,
you did mean David Icke. I was just curious. Sorry, continue.
I believe every stereotype exists for a reason, and I think they're almost all hilarious. I mean, shoot, if the worst stereotype we can come up with is that you all rule the world, I mean, it kind of seems like there's, personally to me, it's like, okay, it's usually either white people or Jews rule the world, and I'm like, okay, can we appropriate that, please? Because I'd be fine being told I rule the world. I'm fine with that. I call myself a king for crying out loud. I am down.
Yeah, Lord supremacy.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, I will take it. Like, oh, you all just run everything. It's like, you're welcome. You're welcome.
But yeah, so in terms of Ancient Aliens, this theory bred the TV show Ancient Aliens, which I'll be real. I used to think when I was a kid the History Channel was amazing. I thought everything on it was truth and factual, and then I grew up and started analyzing it with a critical eye and realized that the History Channel is literally just conspiracy theory. The channel with a really misnomer name.
It used to be like when we were kids, it was just documentaries about events and the revolution, and they would have like specials, but all that other stuff used to be on like A&E and shit, where it was like hauntings. And that's when Stephen found out that all the silverware in his kitchen were floating. And you're like, that stuff used to be on that. And then and then all
the History Channel just ran out of material. They're like, we covered all of history.
When they literally have all of history, and they were just like, nah, let's do American Pickers, or I'd rather film what's going
now
on
those
in this month.
motherfuckers are aliens. I'm just,
The Kennedys.
Yep. And
no,
then the
yeah,
grandpa on Pawn Stars.
No, that's no Robert F. Kennedy. Hey, there's a reason his human voice box broke. That's why it's like he can't hide it. He can't. Why do you think he looks that buff despite his old man mask? He just can't hide it.
Have you ever heard any of his relatives speak? They also have the same, like, their voice isn't shot like his, but their cadence is the same. So they'll speak totally normal, but it'll be like this. It's like an entire family of William Shatners that are broken.
Yeah, well, it sounds like they had a lot of inbreeding. But
by the way, my next video, I wrote in an inbreeding joke today, and
nice.
Because it's in the intro, I'm like, am I going to get demonetized over that joke? I felt like I masked it pretty good, but we'll see.
I feel like, I do feel like Kennedy would have done much better though running as an independent if his voice didn't sound like a dog with snipped vocal cords. Because like the first time like that I saw him talk, I was like, man, this motherfucker's always sick. This guy's
I can't remember what caused that, by the way. I couldn't quite recall. I never remember what caused his voice to sound like that. Is it a condition?
He has a degenerative disorder.
Okay.
Yeah, that Jay Fell, we'll have to get him on one time. He really wants to talk about how Paul McCartney's actually really dead. And
the Paul is dead theory is one of my fucking favorites. That's got to happen. Paul is dead is, I think that may have been my very first. That's what turned me into a tinfoil hater. Is the Paul is
my
dead.
God, that one I remember that was circulating. There was a special on it on Netflix, and just all my friends they would have, no, he's dead. And then I'm like, he's not dead.
I loved when he actually went on SNL.
I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah, and he's sitting beside Chris Farley, and they're like, "Did everyone started saying? Oh, I thought we played it backwards. Say Paul is dead. Was that true?" He's like, "Well, no, I wasn't really dead."
Those interviews were my biggest.
That was like a hoax, right? And he's like, "Right, Chris, I wasn't really dead.
I wasn't really dead."
Yeah.
I do have a DC Paul McCartney. You pick up the bass a little bit and you rock around. No, Chris, I wasn't really dead. That's my Paul McCartney.
I said, Paul, you just have to have your bottom lip never touch your top one.
Yep, Hondo is on the head, Lilith.
Yeah, but
30 minutes left. Sorry, go on.
No, but I'm saying, that was the first one where I got where I was going like, this is obvious bullshit. But the whole thing was ridiculous. So fine. If Paul McCartney's really dead and he did die in that thing that you said, then the guy that they found to replace him with was a much better songwriter and musician.
Exactly. Paul died early in this theory. He died like after their first album or something.
Yeah.
Also, it brings up Men in Black. Okay, so this is a conspiracy theory I do 100% believe in, and this is going to sound retarded, but by all means, I believe the Men in Black are 100% real, and the movie and comic books were made as a way to throw us off the trail, or they were made to give us hints. I don't know which.
There's video footage of them.
There is, yeah. They usually happen after supposed alien abductions.
Which I do like to steer clear of alien abductions, just because like we'll get so many videos of people just like, I was standing in a field and I was like, okay,
the men in of color.
Here's come the men of color.
See, my tinfoil hat theory is that most of and all the insane tinfoil theories were created. They're a psyop to throw you off the trail of the actually true ones.
Yes.
And a lot of those get created to control the conspiracy. It's like they get thrown out there to make any conspiracy theory sound ridiculous.
Have you ever read
who you'll get lumped in with?
Have you ever read any declassified military documents, Gord?
Not that I can recall. No, I probably have. I just don't remember.
couple years ago, I went down a rabbit hole and I was just reading a bunch of them. And I have to this day, I have a favorite. I remember everything about it vividly. So, during the Cold War, the U.S. was convinced it could use cats to spy on the Russians. And what they did is they took a fucking feline, cut it open, put a listening device in it, sealed it back up, and they're like, we're gonna train this cat to sit next to people on benches who are talking and suss out, Russians having conversations. So on the inaugural test run of the Spy Kitty, they set it down across from a park where there's a bench where there's two people sitting. They were gonna have the cat run across the street to listen in. As the cat's running across the street, jet by a car and fucking dies.
Oh,
$44 million down the drain.
Oh, see, I mean, it's perfectly possible you could do that. I mean, they chip cats. I mean, my cat is laying up to my right and has a chip inside of him, and is probably spying.
No, my biggest problem is they could train cats. I've had cats my whole life. I've never trained a goddamn one more than to come when I call it.
Well,
you can train
the
a
government.
cat.
Have you tried drugging them and beating the shit out of them?
I mean, you don't have to go that. I mean, cats can be trained to perform.
I'm just saying they did it in MK Ultra to people.
I swear, I used to think MK Ultra was a Mortal Kombat game. Not even joking. For years, I thought anytime somebody brought up MK Ultra and then started talking about all this other stuff, and I'm like, I did not play this game. What are you all talking about?
Yeah.
Well, MK Ultra is one of those things that people knew about for years. The government did not declassify it. It's like the 90s or something. Like it was not officially acknowledged as something the government did till really recently.
I thought I had to stop rooting for Scorpion. Just I was like, throw your game away. They're messing with it. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. That'd be the greatest troll. You take a Mortal Kombat game.
That'd be great. Like all the fatalities are just like war crimes. Like you hit like a certain amount of buttons, and then he just starts waterboarding his opponent.
Oh, that'd be great. Bamboo shoot their fingernails.
Oh no,
that'd be great. Make them listen to Taylor Swift albums.
Yeah,
all of that.
Actually, I was.
It was not declassified until 2001. So everyone that's talked about MK Ultra and whatnot their whole lives that sound like crazy conspiracy nutters. It was not declassified by the government until 2001. What also happened in 2001?
A Space Odyssey?
Yes.
Oh, 9/11.
Yeah, there you go. 9/11.
I was like, Friends had season 7. I don't know.
Wow.
But 9/11 was a national tragedy.
When season 7 was 2001. The fact you just pull that out like that is.
No, I have no idea. I was guessing.
Because you style your hair the same way as Chandler did in season 1 of the show. So.
Oh, I thought it was more of a Joey.
No, personality-wise, you're absolutely more of a Joey.
I'm like this weird amalgam of all the characters on Friends. Like, I think I got Chandler's snarkiness, but I have Monica's boobs, and
that's
what did you get from Ross? I'm very curious. Did you also marry a lesbian?
God, I hope not, honey.
She's not answering, so yes.
Pick him out. Nigga said Space Odyssey. I'd rather be eaten by Melina instead of listening to Taylor Swift. Oh, homie got a vortex.
I agree, dude. Yeah, I would. Yeah, who's the bug-looking one? I'd rather tongue jack her shit box.
Tavora.
Listen. Yeah.
See, I'm behind because I like Mortal Kombat, but I was more of a Street Fighter guy. It felt more like combo heavy and satisfying to play. Anytime I play Mortal Kombat, I get my shit kicked in.
Oh, see,
Mortal Kombat loses its novelty very once you've seen all the fatalities and done them, it kind of loses its novelty. It's not. I mean, it's a solid fighting game, but Street Fighter has far more lasting value.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just love the cameos and all the characters. If I pick a fighting game like that I play regularly, it's Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat up until the latest one, I was enjoying kind of the silly self-aware stories they were telling in their games. Those were actually kind of fun because they were very tongue-in-cheek. They knew what they were. I was like, this is actually pretty cool. I like this. But the newest one's terrible. I just started watching story stuff on that, and I'm like, ugh, this is awful. Why'd they do this?
Yes, I used to be a competitive MVC player. Single Tales Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is arguably the best fighting game ever made. On like,
I agree.
Yes.
I completely agree.
Like being able to just infinite combo people to death. You have to memorize frame data. But All Wit says sounds like something they wanted to do over here in Britain, where they put listening devices in streetlights so they could apparently catch the terrorists who are run by deranged lunatic. That's eerily similar to an anime called Psychopaths, which is one of the best anime ever made. Where like every street corner of every light one night has cameras. The population is always constantly monitored, and rather than stopping crimes, they prevent crimes by using some sort of devices to monitor people's mental states. And if you're even like in the possibility of committing a crime, the police can fucking use lethal force on you. It's a really good anime. And also we're terribly close to something like that in the next 30 years, I'd wager.
Yeah, we're getting very, very close to thought crime.
I would even argue, I would argue we're already there in some countries.
Oh, I agree.
I know in some countries, like, people have been arrested because they think that a person's praying outside of an abortion clinic or something like that. That is a thought crime.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, to be perfectly honest, the hate crime classification is a thought crime. There should not, hate crime should not exist as a legal means to punish somebody further. It's like, if you want to use the term hate crime to, attribute motive in a crime, that makes sense. But effectively it's like, okay, if I hit somebody with a baseball bat, that it should not matter what my motive behind it really was, other than, how you come about solving it.
You can argue all crimes are an act of hate.
It's bad either way. It's like, oh, but we're gonna tack on some extra time because you did it because you're a racist. I'm like, so effectively what you're doing is you're adding to someone's sentence because of their ideology. That is a thought crime.
And how do you prove that they are, like, because if I get on the stand and say I'm not racist and you say yes you are, how do you know what's going on in my mental more than I do? Like,
yeah. I mean, you can obviously look into someone's history and find out if they are or aren't racist. And like I said, that helps you figure out motive. But how do you know for sure, outside of them full on admitting it, that that's what contributed to it? And who cares if it did? I mean, why does it actually matter if it did? Again, that's the person's ideology. It may be abhorrent, but it's not supposed to be illegal.
Or putting the chemicals in the water and turn the friggin' frogs gay. I fucking love Alex Jones. He is so great.
The man's a legend.
F the mind. Oh, you said Popo, and my mind went to Dragon Ball.
Come on, Popo.
What does that have to do with it?
Yeah, no, not Mr. Popo.
Yes, the frog thing is true, J. Fell. Yeah. There are actually, I believe it's endocrine disruptors that are quite literally changing the genders of frogs. It's not turning them gay. It's turning male frogs into females, but the point is effectively the same.
Jurassic Park warned us about this.
They did.
Those West African frogs changing their gender all of a sudden. It's like, hey, y'all cut it out.
Johnny Boy Richards over here just describing all of Twitch.
Thought crimes. I actually had an idea for an OnlyFans account where a woman just, plays with an abacus, and you would call it the thought that counts.
Nice. I had an idea for an OnlyFans where I'm just going to take content from other women's OnlyFans and post it. So we keep them from getting the money, and then you just pay me.
Yeah, you could set that up for a bunch of guys, and you could call it Lonely Fans. We're the fans of OnlyFans posting their stuff for money.
And just mostly just because, like, I just want to hear them going like, "You're stealing my hard work," and I was like, "Taking your clothes off isn't hard work."
Yeah, how would your wife react though of you like just combing through hours of women taking their clothes off and stuff to make money?
Hey, you know what? When she gets that new car in the driveway, I don't think she's gonna say shit.
That is a basic
world we live in.
Hey, you could compromise. You could say, "Hey, you comb through the content, and I'll just post it. We're partners in this.
I'm just an entrepreneur."
Philip Morgan, I don't know if there are frogs that do it. There are fish that do it, but I don't know about frogs.
What I was saying about Jurassic Park, that is a line from that movie. So there are West African frogs that will change from male to female if they're in a single sex environment. And that's part of, like, in Jurassic Park, that's how they fill in their DNA codes, which ends up how they explain why some of the dinosaurs are able to lay eggs despite the fact they're all supposed to be female.
Interesting. Okay, I guess I completely blanked that part out of my memory. I love, by the way, how there's a woman in the chat who's agreeing with your idea, Sammy.
Awesome.
How do we know she's agreeing with his idea and not the thought that counts? It could be.
Oh, you know what? That's true. It could be the thought that counts. Britain is the most surveilled country in the world, and I don't even think it's in the next 30 years. I think it's in the next 10 years, if that. Is Britain the most surveilled country? Because, I mean, we have the entire NSA apparatus that has access to every single text message we've ever sent. So,
heck, even China is pretty. Yeah, actually, if you search it on Google, it says China is the most surveilled.
China.
Some species of frogs, actually, it's super rare. Only some species, not all. I appreciate the attempt. Okay. So they're the most surveilled with cameras.
In the West.
Little Miss Anonymous had it like clownfish. Like, yeah. So Finding Nemo was scientifically correct. They, Marlin would have just changed his gender and mated with Nemo.
Oh no!
So he's a single dad and a single mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to rename them to dragfish.
Chariots of Gourds, that happened here in Britain. A Christian woman, was praying outside an abortion clinic silently in her head, and she got taken to jail for it.
Yep.
Well, I mean, there was that dude who asked who the fuck is Allah, and he got, 20 months?
Something like that, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The UK is an absolute shit show. Dude, the aliens need to go anywhere it's there, and they need to just blow it off the fucking map.
I'm just hoping we summon Spoon into the chat talking about this.
I know a few years ago, Pyongyang had an absurd buff against cyber warfare because so few of their population had internet. Yeah, so my best friend's wife is Chinese. I've told the story a lot, but I'm going to tell it again because I used to have this, like fear of the Chinese and we're in war with China, stuff like that.
Except for my siblings are Chinese.
What? Really?
He said ew, and I was just like, me having Chinese siblings made that so much funnier.
So yeah, my best friend's wife is Chinese. Now, granted, she's been here since she was 15. She's like 31 now. She's a based American. She's Chinese, and this is the only really she's Christian, good old Midwestern gal, the whole nine. But when they were getting married, she, her family, not all of her family could come over to America for the wedding because China sucks. And so they had two weddings. They had the American one, which was dope. And then they went back to China to have a traditional Chinese one. They're like, well, we're going to be in China. We're not going to fucking be here for just a couple days for a wedding and then bounce. So they stayed in China for like a month. And it was my buddy's first time there. And he got back. And just the first thing he told me, he's like, yeah, we don't need to worry about China. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, after spending a month there, you realize that they're a third world country. They're pretending to be a first world country. Like, it was, he has nothing good to say about China, not from a government point of view, because he already hates them, but like from an infrastructure and populist point of view, they are just
China's maybe a step above the cleanliness of India, which of course isn't clean at all. China's pretty wretched overall. Like you said, they very much want to masquerade as a first world country, but they're much closer to a third world country.
Yeah. And are you exactly Chinese?
Yeah. 7 of them are. I have 2 biological siblings, but 7 of them are adopted, and they are, fully assimilated. They were all adopted very, very young. But I mean, anytime I ever hear somebody try to say things like, "Oh, it's not as bad as people say it is over there," I'm like, I have living examples of it being way worse than probably most people realize. One of my siblings was tortured as a baby just so the mother would give her up, probably tortured by her father. Granted, like the remnants of that torture are harder to notice now that she's older. I mean, she's beautiful. She's genuinely a beautiful young lady now. She's married. She's her husband's doing really, really well. Very, very proud of her. But her father, in all likelihood, we don't know with 100% certainty it was her father, but it was almost certainly her father, burned her face, burned the back of her head, cut off 3 of her fingers. And this was almost certainly done so the mother would give her up. Because in China at the time, and still it's very much remnant over. It's kind of over there now still, but they valued male children over female children. They had the one child rule back then, and
yes,
most
that
families
didn't stop till like the late 90s or mid 2000s, right?
It was I think it was the 2010s because we started adopting. Really? The first adoption that we did was in 1999 or 2000. I think it was late 1999 was the first adoption we did. And we subsequently adopted several more times over the course of the early 2000s.
Did you have all these siblings at once, or was it like, all right, you're grown?
No, it was one. It was one after the other. It was we adopted the first time in '99. My sister.
So counting your 7 adopted siblings, there's 10 of you.
Yeah,
that is insane. Are you the oldest?
I'm second oldest. I have a sister who's about 2 years older than me. The youngest, he is about to turn 19 in December. So they've the only all just recently graduated.
Well, that same best friend that I was referring to, so his brother-in-law, his wife's little brother, he did come to America for the wedding.
Chinese too.
Yeah, he's Chinese too.
Yeah.
And he stayed, and he's going to finish out his high school career here in America. But he was also barred from returning to China until at least 5 years after graduation. And the reasoning is really retarded, in my opinion. The reasoning is so that he cannot come back and infect his peers with the American ideology. But like, if you have him here longer, isn't that just more American ideology he can absorb and then take back there? But again, makes no fucking sense to me. But he, like, when he was first here, he was really struggling with the idea of freedom, understanding the Constitution. Now it's been about a year and a half that he's been here. Like, you could still definitely see the remnants of the communist ideology and whatnot, but he's progressed very far in accepting American cultural norms and values. He still does not like Dr. Pepper, though. He thinks he cannot understand how people drink something that sweet.
I mean, I'm kind of with him on that.
I think Dr. Pepper's fine. I think it's close to a cherry soda, but not as good. So it's part of the reason I don't drink it often, because I'm like, it's more of an alternative if I can't have a cherry soda. Cherry soda is better.
Yeah, I agree.
Remember, all this, I assume that's what to say woke stuff started in America, and nothing will change till the world comes to Jesus Christ. If it don't, it will burn miserably. I don't think there's really a correlation. I mean, there is a correlation between the two, but like, look,
I don't think it's in America.
As a Christian, if you look back at any point in human history, whether it be the 1940s Germany, whether it be now, whether it be the 1700s, there's always stuff happening that is oddly correlated to what happens in Revelation.
Would you mind indulging me for just a moment?
Go for it.
Okay, what we call wokeness, I can tell you precisely where it started. If you believe in the Bible, as I do, it started after the first sin. What was Eve's curse? That her curse was that she would wish to rule over her husband, but he would rule over her.
See, I thought that it was that she was
feminism was basically
what she wanted to eat.
It's like Eve's curse was feminism. That's basically her curse. If you want to know where feminism and wokeness really was birthed, right there. It's like that. It's the temptation of Adam and Eve in the garden. If obviously Eve was tempted. That's the way. My Sunday school teacher had great insight on this. He said, I believe that part of the reason why the temptation was towards the woman wasn't merely just weakness. It was a subversion of the family. It was a subversion of men ruling over their wives, and not ruling over like, oh, you're subservient, you're my slave, that kind of thing. But no, it's just the roles, the role that the man is supposed to be the head and the woman after. But yeah, it's like that curse is birth pains and wanting to rule over her husband, who would rule over her in turn. What do we see feminism most associated with? Hating men and hating pregnancy. There's a reason for that. It's like it is right there spelled out in Genesis.
So wow. Gord, what did the children say to Adam what did Adam say to the children after they asked him why they were no longer allowed in the garden?
Do tell.
Your mother ate us out of house and home.
Oh no.
You can't be the only one with jokes on here, motherfucker.
Hey, that's fine with me. That's a pretty good one. I like that.
I like that one a lot.
I mean, yes, Lilith, you were born with sin, but all humans were. It's not because you're a woman. It's that all humans are because we're imperfect creatures.
Well,
here's the thing. It's like, even if you look at the sin of Eve, like I get a little bit annoyed when people, call the first sin a sin of Eve. It's like, that's not what, I mean, at least if you're a Christian, that's not how you should interpret that, because that's not what the Bible says. The Bible calls it the sin of Adam. It's like, that is who is blamed for the first sin, not Eve. It's Adam, because he was there with her.
Big facts, Toasty. Proud to be a woman. Love masculine men. Well, I one time had this individual, because we were talking earlier about the Aramaic, and I was explaining like the intervals of time and whatnot. I one time had this this individual who was arguing with me. He was talking to this woman, this girl at my work, and he was explaining why women are lower on the totem pole, which they are, but not for the reason he is saying. And that was the problem I had. He was saying that man is higher because man was created in God's image, and women were not, and that's why men are higher on the totem pole, religiously, culturally, the whole nine. And no, that is inherently incorrect. So going back to the original text, man didn't mean to dude with penis. Man had the same character in the Aramaic language as human or as person. So what they're saying is that people were creating God's image to differentiate that animals were not.
Yeah. One part
of it's a really simple thing, and I don't know how he didn't come to that conclusion, considering he was in like his 40s or 50s.
Well, yeah.
He probably says people kind.
Well, and it would run contrary to even the creation of woman. It's because, the biblical account shows that Eve is created from Adam. So it's like, okay, Adam made in the image of God, Eve coming directly from Adam. And what is the first thing he exclaims when he sees her? This is flesh of my flesh. He is directly relating her to him. And that in turn relates her to God. It's like a man and woman are both made in God's image, biblically.
Lilith, you're fine. Yes, don't worry about it.
Men are still over women, yes.
Lilith, you're allowed to believe whatever you want. You don't have to be sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. You're totally allowed to have your own beliefs. These are our
I have friends who are very Christian. I have friends who are very not Christian. I have friends who are very much not anything.
I have plenty of friends who are wrong. It's fine.
Well, dude, you can be whatever religion you want. What I don't understand is atheists. Atheists make no fucking sense to me, because mathematically,
I get it.
It is I don't, because atheists claim to be all about science, and mathematically, all the science points towards a higher power, as opposed to a void or a nothingness. So if your identity is like, hey, we care about science and facts and math, then you should be agnostic, if nothing else. You should believe there's something there. You just don't follow any religious doctrine or know which one it is. But the idea of there being nothing is antithetical to what all the math shows us.
It's funny, because I could understand an agnostic more than an atheist, because an agnostic is simply saying, I don't know. It's funny because atheists tend to be frustrated with agnostics, like, oh, you're just a cowardly atheist. You're a fence sitter or something. I'm like, no, I think saying you don't know that's understandable. I think it's very much understandable.
Well, because none of us do. That's why it's called faith.
Hey.
Yeah. But I mean, it's, I've been a believer for a long time, and granted, my beliefs have changed a lot with knowledge. And it's kind of funny looking at like the churches I grew up attending and how different my beliefs are from those now. And but I do understand atheists to a point. I understand.
Hold on one second. I want to shatter Lilith real quick. I want to destroy you and rebuild you in my image right here. So here's what we're gonna do. If you believe in logic and critical thinking, how do you believe the universe started? Like, I'll give you time to answer in the chat. How do you believe the universe started? And yes, IJP Mexican, I agree with this completely. Atheists are actually just anti-theists.
Very much, yeah. And I think that's why they tend to be more vocal. Like, you rarely hear agnostics espousing agnosticism.
No, I love that South Park episode.
Whereas atheists tend to be more like vegans. They have to tell you that they're atheists.
Well, and and also they tend to lean to a certain side of a political scale, and they tend to praise and debauchery. Where if there's a now, granted, you don't need a man in the sky to tell you right from wrong these days, but
are you
right
kidding?
from
If
wrong,
not for
right
that
and
bearded,
wrong.
muscular sort of dude, I'd be raping, pillaging, and plundering every day. I do need it. No, continue.
Yeah, I know, I get, I get it. Well, I mean, but morality comes from somewhere. It's I just tend to think it's more divine. And yeah.
So
Also
yeah,
about the
but it's
Chinese
here's the deal,
joke.
Lilith. It
I
might be
love women of
beyond.
all colors.
It might be on.
But it's still
It
fun to
might be
joke
beyond
about.
your understanding, but it's not beyond understanding. That's why we have the study of cosmogony. And what cosmogony is it is the science of studying the earliest moments of the inception of the universe. We've got so much data on this, and so there's this Latin phrase that says "ex nihil nihil fit," which means from nothing nothing can come. You cannot create something from nothing. So if it is a physical impossibility to create something from nothing. So let's say you look at the Big Bang model. You accept the Big Bang is the reason for the universe. There had to be a catalyst, and that something cannot come from nothing. So you would need an external force that exists outside the concept of space-time. Well, the only external force outside the concept of space-time would be a god. Not necessarily Christian God, whatever you want to call it, but it would have to be a some form of higher power to ignite the Big Bang, which would then bring us Earth. So again, mathematically speaking, there has to be something out there that can exist outside the laws of space-time, since space and time didn't even exist at that point.
Well, to simplify it, you can argue
leaves nothing.
I mean, it's basically. I mean, to simplify it, it's everything in the natural universe, has a beginning. So if that, anytime you have something, you ask, okay, where did it come from, and then where did that come from, and without something that exists outside of the natural, you're going to have to keep asking that question until you arrive at nothing. And once you arrive at nothing, what's the It's like, well, what do you have? You're left with, well, something can't come from nothing. So what is there?
You got to have
need
something
outside of the natural. You need something supernatural.
Nothing
Bingo,
from nothing leaves nothing.
You got it. Sammy, I know. Are you on Gooch in like 5 minutes?
I am on Gooch in about like 5 minutes, but once in the chat, if you believe that we're in a simulation.
Yeah, one's in the chat if you believe we're in a simulation. Absolutely, that's a good one. I very much go back and forth on this, so I'm going to abstain from this one because I very, very, very much think about this one a lot. And I guess final thoughts before we go. So Sammy 3Pete and Gord King, any thoughts on just aliens in general and sort of not necessarily just ancient aliens? Do they exist? What would you say? I mean, because in my opinion, even a single cell organism on an asteroid is an alien. I think it's pretty much impossible they don't exist. But
they've
aliens
found
like
bacteria
us
in ice on Mars, so yes, aliens exist. But I mean, are they? If they're out there, I hope they're hot, like in Star Trek. But
so Giant Boy Richard says yes, he believes. Frank Doris, no. Twisted Jackson 0. See, he exists in the binary. He is part of the Matrix.
Yes.
He's only using ones and zeros.
Agent Smith.
Peter Venkman's throwing a whole fucking monkey wrench in the idea of saying 5.
I don't like 5.
I believe in illegal aliens.
Yeah,
we're gonna cut it here. Gorging, tell the people who you are, what you do, and what you got coming up.
Yes, despite the name you see on screen, the actual name is the Gord King. Primarily what I've been doing recently is poorly explaining television and movie plots and whatnot, adding a good bit of humor. I've got a video of that sort coming later this week, probably on Friday, where I poorly explain the character arc of Galadriel from the Rings of Power. I also have 3 other videos from that series currently out for different movies. You can check those out. I also have a meme channel called Gordish Memes, a gaming channel called Gaming with Gord. I do live game streams usually Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And tomorrow, speaking of aliens, I will be finishing up the Mass Effect trilogy. So that should be a lot of fun.
Beautiful. You'll love to see it. Everybody make sure you go subscribe to one or all of his many fantastic channels. Check out the Harry Potter Poorly Explained if I was to make hilarious. A recommendation, just personally. And then Sammy. All you, buddy.
I'm good. I am Sammy 3Pete. You can find me on Twitter on Sammy 3Pete, and you can find me at YouTube on Sammy 3Pete. I'm a Detroit-based musician. You can find me on a bunch of other people's channels. I'm going right into Diabolical Souls. We'll be discussing episodes 5 and 6 of season 2 of Invincible. And tomorrow, I'm usually on Gooch's channel for Diabolical Wednesdays, but I will not be there because I'm going to see ELO. Then Thursday, I am going to be on Roman's channel discussing werewolves. And then I will be back at Diabolical Souls, and we will be starting Uzumaki, which I'm very much looking forward to talking about. And then other than that, you can find me on a bunch of other random people stuff. So, if you like me, follow me on Twitter. But please go to the YouTube, give that a like as well, or a follow. Well, I don't know how you kids do things. Is it a follow? It's a follow.
A subscribe, a follow.
Subscribe.
Put me on Twitter, sub me on YouTube, that kind of thing.
Yep. But that's me.
No, I appreciate it, man. Again, I'm loving doing this show with you.
Yeah, I also will be putting out another live album. So if you guys,
as somebody who got to hear it, it's fantastic, y'all. I think y'all will really enjoy it.
Is it the album? Is what you sent me as well? Like,
yeah.
Oh, dude. All right. I sort of glazed Sammy about this album for a little bit because I know it's very difficult to get people to listen to your music and whatnot. Guy, when I tell you, dudes, and this is why I told him, and he sounds like fucking Chris Cornell if Chris Cornell was doing like heavy blues rock. Sammy got the voice of a fallen angel while we're here talking about the religious stuff. You'll
What's
love
funny,
it.
there was actually a religious musician I used to listen to that his style really reminded me of a guy named Warren Barfield, who had really awesome music. But yeah, Sammy's music, very reminiscent of that as well.
Right down.
Yeah, you killed it, dude. It was fantastic. And yeah, last but not least, you got me. And yeah, thank you for embarking on this adventure with us. Do we believe in these sorts of things? Sometimes maybe yes, maybe no. Who's to say? But we are going to continue to do this weekly every Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Next week, our guest will be Nadia. We will be talking about, if all things align, the Jack the Ripper, H.H. Holmes, the conspiracy theory that are the same person. Are they? Aren't they? We'll figure that out. It's going to be, we're trying to go down that Halloween path, and Nadia is going to be a great guest for this. And beyond that, just, of course, every day, almost every day, 3 videos on my channel, and, of course, the Friday night live stream. Do not miss this Friday, Neon Leon. It is going to be something very, very special. There's an individual in our community that is it needs a little help, and we're doing everything we can to help her, and it's going to be just all about her. So make sure that you're going to join into any one live stream. It is this coming week's Neon Leon. And beyond that, just appreciate you guys for being here. Thanks for, now and again, just enough with the anti-woke, don't get me wrong, that stuff's important. It really is. But if you focus on that too long, you're going to lose yourself to the internet. And no one wants to do that. So this is a nice break from the norm. I appreciate those of you who have the curious minds, the interest, whether we believe in this stuff or not. The conversation's fun. The conversation is all that matters. So until next time, it is all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.